Hello once again, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Dropping the Hammer Racing Hour. Alex Gray here with Michael Klein, and today we have another special guest here, Mr. Seth Eggert, joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Seth.
No problem. It's not often, at least recently anyway, that I've been invited onto a podcast, but then again, I've been so busy, I'm not sure I would have had time for some of the others.
Mm-hmm. And,
yeah, definitely understand that. You know, it's been crazy just finding time to even do this, because obviously I'm living in Indianapolis now, and I'm working from 10 to 6, so, and then it's all the, sponsorship stuff that we got to work on too. So I'm just glad that we're able to take time and just talk with other people in racing like you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, I've been working. I work in Mooresville, North Carolina, at Mitchell Community College during the week, and today was my last 8 to 5 day until the summer semester. So, Yay!
Yeah, for me.
Okay.
Yeah, and for me, I still work at a local television station as a master control operator here in Cincinnati. Obviously, still working on a lot of content for my channel Gray Speed and all that fun stuff as well. So we all got a little bit of something that we need to do, but we all love racing, and that's why we're all here. We're all here together to talk about it.
Absolutely, and we have got a lot to talk about this week. So obviously, I think we need to start off, just by kind of introducing our guest, Seth. So obviously, he's a writer for Kickin The Tires. So Seth, if you just kind of want to go into more about how you got into racing and what landed you at Kickin The Tires, that would be great.
Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of a story, so sit back and relax.
All right.
But I first got into racing because of both my parents. They were both fans back in when we were living in New Jersey, back in the early to mid 90s. My first race was actually at Nazareth Speedway. I want to say it was the Meridian Advantage 200 in 1995. That was the one that Tim Fido won.
Oh, okay.
It was that unsponsored car.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and Dad would always take me to whether it was Flemington, Wall Stadium. We went to Thompson once. Every year, depending on certain holidays, we would go to Dover, to Pocono, to Darlington, and we just kind of round robined some of the races. Granted, Dad was always a fan in general. Mom was a fan before she met Dad, because of my grandparents. They emigrated to the U.S. in the late 40s, early 50s after surviving the concentration camps in World War II.
Oh, wow.
But the easiest sport, because my grandfather, after surviving, he was injected with polio. So after surviving, he was wheelchair bound. So the easiest thing that they could go to sporting event-wise, because they embraced the U.S., at that time was auto racing, because they didn't have the ADA handicap sections that they have now at every sporting event that you can go to. So at a racetrack, they would just wheel him into the infield, and just watch from there. So I kind of have all these weird, one-off connections of whether it was Mom growing up with some drivers, whether it was my sister being friends with some drivers, and also going to NASCAR Tech, working for the Bistonis, for Rusty Wallace, and for some others. And then me, I went to college first for history. Changed my major a couple times, ended up back at history. And in 2011, I got iRacing. And I couldn't afford everything on iRacing because I was also working part-time. I was taking care of Mom with her health issues. And I joined this IndyCar team called Last Lap Motorsports. And they were writing for iRacing News, and they suggested that I take over for them because they were about to start going to, I think, Rutgers, where I was in a community college. I was like, sure, it'll at least help me get more content on iRacing, and it just came naturally to me. I did that for 5 years. Now that I think about it. 2015, I moved to what was then Popular Speed through their developmental journalist program, which in my 6 months there, they only let me write one article. So I'm not entirely sure how much of a developmental journalist program it was, but that's what they called it. Late 2015, I found a Facebook post from what was then known as Tribute Racing. And they were asking if anyone was interested in writing about NASCAR. I was like, what the hell? I'll answer a Facebook post. Let's see what happens. 2 weeks later, I was writing for the newly rebranded Motorsports Tribune. Spent 3 years there, and then in late 2019, and this is how life works, I guess, sometimes, I was leaving the Xfinity Roval race, and I was going to go and grab dinner at a local restaurant that I like over by the track called Garofalo's. It's an Italian restaurant. Well, I couldn't make the right out of the track because of construction. And the only way to go there, I would have had to go like 5 miles out of the way and then double back. And I was like, I'm not wasting all that time. I'll just stop at the Olive Garden over by Concord Mills, which is maybe a mile and a half away. Well, I'm sitting there, and in walks Jerry Jordan from Kickin The Tires, Chris Knight from Catch Fence, and a few others. And Jerry tells me, to join them. And as we're sitting and eating, Jerry's talking about needing somebody to cover eNASCAR and iRacing and the eNASCAR Heat Pro League because he didn't understand any of it. And I look at him and I was like, that's where I got my start, right? So after talking and a couple conversations later, by the Martinsville playoff race weekend, which was like 3 or 4 weeks later, I was writing for Kickin The Tires, and I've been there ever since. I've gone from an esports editor to an esports editor and staff writer to now the associate editor at Kickin The Tires.
That's a very interesting story there. There's definitely, it's definitely one of the more unusual paths to racing that I've heard, but that's definitely, I know everybody's got a different path. So
I often joke that I have one of the strangest paths to get to where I am, and probably one of the more unique paths because, I have written several sim to reality stories, especially last year, trying to highlight that it's not just for drivers. You have James Pike, who's now the pit road reporter for the Cars Tour on Flow Racing. You have Blake McCandless, who's now one of the play-by-plays for the Cars Tour on Flow Racing. And they both got their start through iRacing. So,
it's not just the drivers who can get their start on that now. It's so many different, avenues.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I like to try to highlight that it's not just for these people. I wouldn't be surprised if, granted, this might be a take right now, but I think in the future it won't be. But I wouldn't be surprised if one day we even see crew chiefs coming from there.
Hey,
I don't know. That doesn't seem like such a hot take. I could definitely see how knowing how to set up on iRacing could translate into the real world.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have now Keegan Leahy, who was the 2021 eNASCAR champion for 2311, who was just hired by 2311 to be their performance consultant and try to help them maximize lap times in the sim.
Oh wow! I didn't know he got that position.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Tyler Reddick credits him for that win at Coda.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, that is incredible, honestly, and that's a good point. I do think, I know people like to make the comment, especially when William Byron's about to win a race, William Byron, his career started on a computer. Well, hey, we're seeing more and more of that, it really looks like, and especially with iRacing.
Although, to be fair to William Byron, it didn't start on a computer.
Yeah.
Yes, he did get a lot through iRacing,
Right.
but he had made starts in some karting and Legends cars before iRacing. Just like Ty Majeski is associated a lot with iRacing, who had plenty of late model starts beforehand.
Right.
The one I would point to that truly got his start on iRacing is Raja Karut.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
I was gonna say that, but yeah.
And I'm not trying to split hairs here, but I'm trying to be more accurate and fair to the drivers, mainly because honestly, it's kind of their story to a certain point. And on top of that, I'd rather tell the story more accurately than what essentially they get associated with just because of certain aspects, like how William Byron especially excelled in the Pro Invitational, along with Timmy Hill, along with a few others. I mean, there are several drivers, real-life drivers, that have been in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. Dale Jr., who was named to the 75 greatest drivers list today, he won the inaugural series event back in 2010.
That's right. Yeah.
And then you have Timmy and Tyler Hill, who both were in it. Josh Berry was in it. Ty Majeski was in it. Caden Honeycutt is in it right now. Parker Retzlaff was in it last year. So you have, a handful of drivers, maybe 6 or 7, that have been in the iRacing series while also competing in real life, which is, I don't know how they have the time to do that, especially Caden Honeycutt lately, because he's been running trucks, late models, iRacing, and dirt legend car or dirt sprint cars. I have no idea how he has the time to do all that.
Yeah, I've honestly felt like Caden Honeycutt is one of the more underrated drivers out there right now. Just what he's done. I mean, he made a Chili Bowl A main in his very first midget start ever. And people may not know this, but that is extremely hard to do. Like, even on a prelim night. So that just goes to show how much talent is actually in that kid.
I agree.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, there were 2 drivers that made the A main in their first start this year. Or I know Caden, it was his first. The other one, it might have been her second. But Jada Avedijan, I think is how you pronounce the name.
Actually, I think you're right. Yeah, but at the same time, it's like Jade Avedijan also has a lot of other midget experience, and not to discredit her, because it's still very difficult to do that, but...
And she's also still like 15, so that made it a little more impressive there, too.
Yeah. But yeah, the fact that was Caden's first time in a midget, period, I mean, that just makes it that much more impressive.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
But anyway, I guess now we can kind of get into the news of the week. While we're on the topic of sprint car and midget racing. So, unfortunately, more trouble has come to Hendrick Motorsports. Alex Bowman was injured in a high-limit sprint car series event at 34 Raceway and will be out for 3 to 4 weeks. Wow, that's the second Hendrick Motorsports driver this year that's sidelined due to an injury.
Yeah, fractured vertebrae for Bowman, and Josh Berry has become Mr. Substitute, as he will be right back in a Hendrick car now. Of course, he was subbing for Chase Elliott, and now he's subbing for Alex Bowman here. So, on the bright side, Berry gets more reps in a really good Cup car, but obviously, and it's tough for Bowman because obviously, near the end of last year, he had the concussions. He missed half the playoffs, and now, obviously, the fractured vertebrae from something different here, but obviously you can't help but express a little bit of concern with having those kind of injuries.
Well, to break it down in a slightly different way, at least for Berry, while he was subbing for Chase Elliott, he had an average finish of 17.2 with that runner-up finish at Richmond. Meanwhile, for Bowman, this is the second time that he's out, like you said, in about, 10 months, 8 months?
Something like that, yeah.
But he had the concussion. Then he had the L1 penalty and lost 100 points.
Yep.
Got that back via appeal. Then lost 60 points due to another L1 penalty that they did not appeal. So he's been not points leader, penalty, points leader, penalty, now injured. He's had a wild couple months to start the season just based on that, let alone last year. But also just in general, I know that they've already applied for a waiver. Based on other drivers who have been through similar things, he will most likely get the waiver. This would be the 28th waiver, 25th waiver that NASCAR has approved, assuming they approve it. 28th request.
Okay.
Yes, I have the chart open if you're wondering.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm the chart guy for those that don't recognize the voice. But he would also only be the fourth driver to have two waivers. Tony Stewart, Kurt Busch, and Justin Haley are the other three. Which Tony got his, the first one, which was, the way I worded it is mental health. It was after the incident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it was when it was Jeff Ward, correct?
Kevin Ward.
Kevin Ward. Thank you. Kevin Ward had crashed, was mad at Tony, and came back on the track. And if you want to look it up, you can look it up, but I'm not going to go further into that. His second one was when he crashed the dune buggy before the start of the 2016 season.
Yeah.
For Kurt, in 2015, it was when he was suspended for the allegations of abuse, which were ultimately he was cleared of. Mm-hmm. And then for the concussion, which he withdrew last year. And for Justin Haley, his first one was because he wasn't old enough to compete in the truck series. And the second one for him was COVID.
Yeah, that's right. I remember he did miss a race in 2021 because he had COVID.
It's not that he had COVID. He was exposed to somebody who tested positive for COVID.
That's right. Because I remember.
I think it was his brother, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Okay. If I remember correctly, I think that was Josh Berry's first Cup start, wasn't it?
That was Zane Smith running in the Xfinity race where he got the waiver for Haley. But in the Cup Series, yes, that was Josh Berry's debut filling in for Justin Haley.
Yeah.
And then he filled in later on in the same season for Corey LaJoie.
But, it definitely really hate to see that for Bowman. Just kind of go into a personal story with him. Alex, I think you were here for this. But at Indianapolis Raceway Park a couple years ago, when I was running Ryan Chakosky's midget, we were struggling with the tire, and Alex Bowman was literally just sitting there because he owned Josh Wise's car. And, he just kind of started joking around with him, and then he legitimately asks, "Do you want a tire?"
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And we're just kind of sitting there thinking, like, is he offering us a tire? Which we ultimately turned down because it's like, I just wouldn't feel right doing that. But, I just kind of shows the person that he is. And we definitely want to wish him the best in this recovery from this.
Absolutely. And yeah, it was a really incredible gesture that he did. Just speaks volumes to how great of a guy he is.
Now, granted, I know there's been a lot of talk this week as to whether or not, at least since the announcement that he's injured and is going to sit out 3 to 4 races, there's been a lot of talk as to whether or not drivers should be able to do extracurricular activities and stuff like that. And one of the things that, keeps popping up is sponsors, and that, they've paid for certain drivers to be in the car. Well, for Alex Bowman, that sponsor was also on the dirt midget that he was driving. So there is that. Or, sorry, sprint car that he was driving.
Yeah.
But besides that point, there is a fine line. Over in Formula One, they can't run anything except for the Formula One car. In IndyCar, they can run various other things. Granted, it might vary from team to team, whether or not they have to get approval or something like that. But we often see them hop over, like Connor Daly, into the Cup Series, or Elio Castroneves into IMSA. So NASCAR's not the only one where the drivers will go and run other things. I mean, you even have Ron Capps attempting the Chili Bowl every year. So it's not even just the ones that turn left and right. It's also the ones that just go straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I know this is definitely going to reignite that debate. It really has. But it's like, if you want my opinion on it, these drivers have to have a life outside of NASCAR. It's a very stressful sport. Drivers need an outlet, and for some of them, it's sprint car racing, or late model racing, or snowboarding. And so I just don't think you can really hold a leash on them. And maybe that's coming from a more biased driver perspective, but that's certainly my take on it. Not really, and I'm sure the team owners would probably have a much different view on it than, say, one of us would. But it's just it's one of those things that it just doesn't really seem like there is necessarily a right answer.
Yeah, and I think even Kevin Harvick pointed that out one time. It's like he even said, like, if you're just held down to, like, you only focus on being a cup driver, you're gonna go insane. So yeah, I agree. It's extremely unfortunate what happened to Chase Elliott and what happened to Alex Bowman, and it sucks. But also, these guys, they have after they race on Sunday, they have families to return to. They have other hobbies that they like to do, and everyone's different. As you said, maybe it's racing related, maybe it's not. But again, it's these guys have a life.
And just, I guess, to put into perspective, in a different way, assuming the waiver gets approved, which again, there's no reason why it wouldn't. This is why the waiver system was put into place for injuries and also to allow drivers to take time off for family. This would be the 5th waiver this year. Jake Garcia and Taylor Gray both got ones in the Truck Series because they weren't old enough when the season started. Josh Williams got one because of his suspension for parking where he shouldn't have parked. And then Chase Elliott for his injury as well. So NASCAR's fairly lenient with the waiver. I did mention that there's been 28 applied for. The 3 that have been not approved, that have been denied. Spencer Gallagher for the substance abuse policy suspension. Kaz Grala for not having sponsors, and Grant Enfinger for not having a sponsor. Yes, people have actually applied for a waiver because they didn't have a sponsor.
I mean, it's like, why not? I mean,
Yeah.
Might as well shoot your shot.
Never know.
Yeah, but it's also called a medical waiver for a reason.
That's true.
Yeah. Oh, is that the official term, medical waiver?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know. I thought it was just waiver.
Official term, at least from every team press release that I've found that reference it, have referenced medical waiver.
Makes sense.
All right. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Thanks for clearing that up.
Granted, I don't know if age, might fall under a different category in it, but for the most part, because I can scroll through the reasons, you have age, off-track injury, at-track injury, COVID, suspension, mental health, and then, at least for Matt Kenseth, because they granted him a waiver, extraordinary circumstances.
I see.
That was when he replaced Kyle Larson.
I see. Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the rule book was somewhat more tied for playoff purposes, that the owner playoffs, the driver, it was complicated, let's put it that way.
Oh, yeah. But anyway, yeah, we are certainly wishing the best for Alex Bowman and a speedy recovery and look forward to seeing him back on track.
Yep, absolutely. So with that,
All right, Alex, what other news do we got?
Darlington's getting closer, and you know what that means. Throwbacks. We got lots and lots of throwbacks coming out. As a matter of fact, let's see, Legacy Motor Club just unveiled, this is actually for the All-Star race. That's taking place at North Wilkesboro, but that is a throwback, so I'll talk about it. The original STP
It's becoming like
car.
a second throwback race.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, yeah, and Harvick doing the whole thing with the 29 and all that.
Well, to be fair, it's a throwback track, or maybe we should just call it a resurrection track.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a good point. Trackhouse just released Daniel Suarez's throwback, which is Ricky Rudd's old 26 car, the Quaker State car, and it's a beaut. It looks absolutely amazing.
Yep, but as far as I'm concerned, that is going to be a Steve Kinser throwback.
Okay, that's fair.
And then you also have Jeremy Clements throwing back to Jeff Bodine.
Yep.
And the number 5 Levi Garrett car. You have, let's see, Sam Mayer is throwing back to Kurt Busch's Sharpie car.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that one.
Yeah, that one's beautiful.
Yeah, JRM always seems to knock it out of the park when it comes to throwbacks.
I agree.
Absolutely. Ryan Williams is a great designer over there.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have William Byron throwing back to Jeff Gordon's Chrome Illusion car from 1998.
Yeah. That one looks sick. I like that one.
Yeah. Seth, you might know this. Has somebody thrown back to Jeff Gordon's T-Rex car? Or is that like a big no-no right now?
I think somebody did throw back to it, or at least the style of it. I don't think it was a direct throwback. I want to say it was in the Xfinity series. I'm trying to remember who it was. It wasn't one of the bigger teams, I know that much, but I want to say someone has thrown back to at least that style of paint scheme.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see William Byron throw back to that for Racer 2, but I don't know how Hendrick is going to be okay with that.
Well, I would love to see it this year since it's a Raptor-sponsored race.
That
Oh, man,
cool.
that's a good point.
That's a missed opportunity.
I mean, come on. You have the name of a dinosaur on the car. Come on.
Hendrick PR department, what are you doing?
Come on. Hill Motorsports doing a Ted Musgrave truck throwback.
Yep.
I love that one. That one is nice. Timmy Hill's going to drive that truck. Believe Josh Berry doing the Hutch Strickland Circuit City throwback. Oh, man, that is nice.
And Joey Logano to Mark Donohue's AMC Matador.
Yeah. That's right. That one looks really nice.
Which that one I think was unveiled at Talladega. Granted, it's not the first one to throw back to that car. I know Haley Deegan did, I think, last year, and I know Ryan Reed did, had to be 2019 or 2018.
Mm-hmm. And plus, for that Darlington race, to celebrate the 20th anniversary of what many say is, and probably is, honestly, one of the greatest NASCAR finishes ever, Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch will be the honorary co-starters for the Goodyear 400.
I am so hoping that they come into the media center because I'm going to start my question off by saying, by the way, I was in the grandstands for that finish at 11 years old.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Although, to be fair, I thought Kurt had won at the time.
Yeah, when I remember watching it as a 5-year-old on TV, I just thought, how can they tell Ricky Craven won? I had no idea, like about electronic timing and scoring, and my little 5-year-old eyes couldn't tell the difference.
Well, that was one of 2 photo finishes I've seen in person. And when I say in person, I have seen some others as a media member, but either from the press box or from the media center, we're able to see it on TV as well. But in person, the other one, which I was a fan, at that time, Casey Kane and Kyle Busch in the Truck Series at Charlotte. And that one I did call right, saying that Casey had won, although that win would eventually be encumbered.
Oh, I see. Go ahead.
That was the year before they brought back DQs, if I remember correctly.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I remember One photo finish I remember in particular, I might be forgetting some along the way, but I know one in particular I saw was Talladega in 2007, the Busch Series race. Bobby Labonte beating out Tony Stewart at the line. That was cool to see. And that was the $77 General car, I believe, that Bobby drove at the time.
I mean, granted, I was at the 2016 Daytona 500 as a fan. That was actually my last race as a fan before I started, writing more professionally. But where our seats were in at the exit turn 4, you couldn't really see who won from where we were.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. So some of the ones I've seen. I guess 2020 Daytona was one because I think that was pretty close between Hamlin and Blaney.
That's true.
Technically, yes. The reason why I'm saying that is a couple days afterwards, NASCAR said that they had indeed thrown the caution when Newman wrecked. So therefore, technically speaking, it was under caution.
I see.
All right. Yeah. Let's see. There was also Chase Briscoe and Grant Enfinger at Eldora. I think that was a photo finish. Trying to remember, was the caution out at the end of the 2022 Daytona 500? Because I think that was pretty close between Cindric and Bubba, wasn't it?
They threw the caution, but they had already crossed the line.
Okay.
So that one did count.
All right.
Yeah. Now, I don't know. I wouldn't consider this a photo finish, but it was still a close finish and a great finish. I was standing on pit road for this one. Kentucky 2019 between the Busch brothers.
Yes.
That. Oh man. I still look back on the footage I have and the finish from that, and I just get goosebumps from it and how great of a battle that was.
Absolutely. That was probably the best finish I've ever seen in person.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, just something I want, if they do go to the media center, I want to see Ricky Craven go in like 0.2 faster than Busch.
I got you 20 years ago. I got you now, buddy. Yeah, that would be funny.
I know they're also going to be recognizing the 75 greatest drivers at Darlington, or at least having all of the living members there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
has that been announced yet, or are you breaking that on here?
No, that was announced.
Oh, I didn't see that. Well, I've been working all day, so I may not have seen it.
That was announced a while ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're going to announce the final 5 there.
Okay.
And recognize all of the living members there.
Okay. Yeah, I must have missed that.
I was going to say another one of the hints to that. If you watch some of the box openings, that some of the drivers have been getting, like Dale Jr., Rusty Wallace, Jeff Burton, Randy LaJoy, etc. In each box, there's that 75th anniversary diecast.
Yeah.
And a card cordially inviting them to the throwback race at Darlington.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I saw Sterling Marlin tweet that with that exact box with the car. I did see that.
Yeah, so Dale Jr. was announced today. Jeff Burton was officially announced yesterday after Harrison mentioned it on the radio pre-race. Tony Stewart was the first one announced. You also have Biffle, Hamlin, Larson, Chase Elliott, Hornaday, LaJoy, as we said, Marlin, as we said, Casey Kane, Ryan Newman, Mike Stefanik, Carl Edwards, and the original 50 that were named in 1998.
Yeah, fun story. I have that. When I first became a NASCAR fan in 2004, I remember at a bookstore, I think somewhere in Louisville, Kentucky. I don't know if it's open anymore, but I got that 50 greatest drivers, and I learned a lot about some of the legends of the sport at the time. Of course, this was 04, and the book came out in 98, but I'm pretty sure I still have that book stowed away somewhere, and I'm going to have to dig it out, whether it's in the store somewhere here or at my dad's place, but yeah.
I know I have the commemorative 164 diecast that they made for the 50th anniversary, in which it had 1948 and 1998 on the roof, and instead of driver's name, I think it was Bill France Jr. or Bill France Sr. or something like that
Oh, nice.
on each side of the car.
Oh, wow, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think I've got the same car, but in a 1/24th scale. I'll have to see if I can find it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think those are pretty plentiful.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I think I picked it up at a swap meet for karting. So someone was just selling it, and I was like, "Oh, diecast, gotta buy it."
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
yeah. Any other news from the world of racing that we need to talk
Well,
about? Or
well, let's see. A local karting track rebranded.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So GoPro Motorplex is now Trackhouse Motorplex.
Yeah, where did we see that?
Through Seth Eggert on Twitter.
That would be you, good sir.
Yep, yep. I wasn't at. I'll be honest. I wasn't trying to break that story. I happened to be on Facebook, and I got a notification that the GoPro Motorplex had changed its name to Trackhouse Motorplex. And I started looking around at their other social media handles, and sure enough, they changed it on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. Granted, I don't have Snapchat, so I wouldn't be able to check that one, but you get the idea. And I went to the website that they had listed as trackhousemotorplex.com. I think it was so new because that version of the URL wasn't working. But when I typed in GoPro Motorplex, it still had all of the new Trackhouse Motorplex branding. So I don't know if it's just a rebranding. I know Justin Marks had already co-owned the track. And he co-owned it with Michael McDowell and I think 2 or 3 other people. Or if Justin Marks is now owner of the track. But
Yeah,
I know,
I mean, when we go there, you see Justin Marks on the safety video, but I've not heard of Mike McDowell's involvement in it for a while now.
Yeah.
I know he used to co-own. I don't know if he still does. Because I remember 2016 when they started doing the Little 600 charity event before the Coke 600 there. One of the times I got in VIP tickets, and this was, again, I'm still starting out professionally as a media member, so I didn't know that you could sign up as a media member and get all that anyway. So I paid for all of that. But part of it included a guided tour with your choice of either Justin Marks or Michael McDowell. And I think Michael McDowell was leading the tour I was on, and Marks was leading the tour that my sister was on.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and technically, I work at Whiteland Raceway Park now. That's my job up here in Indy. So I know I probably shouldn't say this, but honestly, that place is one of the nicest karting tracks I've ever been to, and it is one of the most fun tracks I've driven on. Me and Alex were there a couple of years ago in the rain on the slicks, and that was some of the most fun I've ever had in go-kart. So, yeah, if you're in the Charlotte area, I definitely recommend checking it out. And I guess kind of staying on the topic of Trackhouse, Pitbull has announced his next album will be entitled Trackhouse. So, it's crazy seeing how it seems like he's going all in on this team and its branding.
I know,
And
right?
I know there's a track on the album in which he does reference Trackhouse. He references Chastain as Ross off the wall, off the chain Chastain. And he does reference Daniel Suarez, but I cannot roll my R's, so I'm not going to attempt to do it the way Pitbull did, but I believe Pitbull said Daniel Rapido Chastain. Or, sorry, Daniel Rapido Suarez.
Nice.
That is awesome.
Yeah, didn't I hear that Suarez and Justin Marks are going to have a solo on this album, too?
Oh, my God.
But I know Pitbull is also planning on being at the Chicago street course and being at the track more, which we've also started seeing Michael Jordan at the track more, and we've started seeing some of the other, I guess, high-profile owners starting to pop up more often, whether it's here in NASCAR, whether it's in IndyCar, whether it's even in Formula One, but we're starting to see them pop up at the track more often from what it seems like.
Yeah, that's what it's starting to look like, because especially Jordan, he was at Talladega this past weekend.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed him at the track more, and just anytime we can get these people to the track even more, it's just going to help the sport. And man, it's just so cool seeing how invested some of these guys are.
Oh yeah.
Although I do have to say for Michael Jordan, since Bubba's first top 5 with 2311 at Pocono last year, since then, either both cars have crashed or had penalties or had some sort of mechanical problem every time he's been at the track.
Oh,
wow.
Okay.
That is weird.
Almost like an MJ curse.
Yeah. Yikes.
Damn.
Because at Richmond, when Jordan was there, Bubba was on pace or on course to get a top 10 finish, and a crew member fell over the wall, causing a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you even go back to Richmond last year, Ty Gibbs blew up like 5 laps into the race.
Yeah. And then
so there's been a lot of, at least for the times that we know Michael Jordan's been there, I'll clarify it that way.
Yeah, and of course at Talladega, I guess Bubba nearly broke that curse, but had a late block, couldn't really finish the block, lost control, leading on the last lap, and tried to hold off his best friend Ryan Blaney, and Kyle Busch stealing the win there.
Yeah, I would say that this race, honestly, for a while was showing what one of the super speedway races should be, because, you had several lines. They were all managing to pass each other, and it stayed clean, not like the Xfinity race. It kind of went to hell in a handbasket toward the end there.
Yeah, it really did.
It was going really good for a while.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I thought the Cup race was pretty solid overall. And fun fact here, Kyle Busch, in 2008, when he joined Joe Gibbs Racing, his second Cup win with the team was at Talladega. 15 years later, the same exact thing, but with Richard Childress Racing. I just thought that was kind of a unique stat that I had to look up after the race this past Sunday.
Or another dubious stat from this weekend. It was the first time since 2000 at Daytona in which 2 cars flipped in the same Xfinity Series race.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And yes, that was a stat that I tweeted out. On top of that, it was also the first time since the 2016 Talladega Spring race that 2 cars flipped in the same race in general. That at Talladega in 2016, that was Chris Buescher and Kenseth in the Cup Series. Daytona in 2000 was Michael Waltrip and Jeff Green.
Mm.
Yeah, that's weird. Don't we race with a guy named Jeff Green in Elite?
Yeah, sounds familiar.
Couldn't be related.
Yeah. Yeah, he drives the 38. Yeah. But yeah, that's a fun fact too. We race in Elite, and Jeff Green appears in it quite often.
And I occasionally will make an appearance there.
Yep, that's true.
Yep.
But otherwise, the Talladega race weekend was fairly clean to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the Xfinity race, anyway. And I have to give credit where credit is due, but there are 3 race weekends this weekend, correct? Or 3 races this past weekend, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Only one of them finished under green. The ARCA race.
That was Xfinity. Oh, wait.
Yeah, just like Daytona.
Because Xfinity didn't throw in the caution for that wreck in the tri-oval as they were taking the checkered.
Yeah, I forgot that very last incident.
In which, currently now, Mr. Malcolm in the Middle, Frankie Muniz, currently holds the ARCA points lead.
And now by 11 points instead of 3.
Yeah, thanks to a couple penalties that came out in ARCA. That I know one of them involved Jesse Love.
And the other was Gus Dean. Both Venturini cars. But also, speaking of ARCA, they were also racing on the West Coast at Kern County Raceway Park. Venturini won there as well with Sean Hingorani. That marking the first time that one organization has won 2 ARCA races at 2 different tracks on the same day. And just to add a little bit more history to this, Sean Hingorani's crew chief was Monin Rahman.
Monin Rahman, hell yeah, I know the guy.
Yeah, it was his first win as a crew chief. And that also makes him the first graduate from the NASCAR Drive for Diversity internship program to win a race as a crew chief.
Yeah, that's awesome. I got to know Monin a few years ago at Kentucky. Stayed in touch with him since. He's a pretty cool guy, and it's so cool getting to see him have this success. So definitely want to congratulate him on this.
And I may or may not have just written a feature that went live today on Kickin The Tires about him.
All right. I'll have to see if we can get him on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, shameless little plug for myself there, though.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
that's what our whole deal is here.
Exactly. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But I do also want to mention for Hingorani, it was his second career win. But not only that, when he won the previous weekend at Irwindale, it was the first win for a driver of Indian, as in India, not Native American, but of Indian descent to win an ARCA race as well.
Oh, wow.
So for Monin to be crew chiefing him this past weekend, it was also the first time that there were a crew of 2, at least, driver and crew chief duo, of South Asian descent to win a race.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a great weekend, and it's just so cool to see the support becoming more diverse and the people who it brings in. Because, you have people from all over the world and all kinds of backgrounds getting involved in it now, and it's so awesome to see that.
And it's great for the sport. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I guess I'll plug, this is kind of a good transition here, so I'll plug this in. But earlier this week in Daytona Beach, the sheriff was lobbying for the Florida legislature and governor to make it a hate crime for religious and other discriminatory protests on private property. And apparently that was signed into law today.
Oh, wow.
Huh.
And that comes after, at Daytona, the last couple years, they've been targeted during NASCAR race weekends by various neo-Nazi groups on private property across the street.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's been a very unfortunate presence there at the sport. There's just
I agree.
No place for people like that in the sport, in or around it. And it is a shame that is unfortunately still an ideology that is, that exists in this country and in this world. And so hearing steps being taken to fight that is great.
Yeah, exactly.
And granted, I wasn't trying to go down this dark route, so don't take it the wrong way.
Yeah, no worries.
It's all good.
No worries. I agree. Those people need to get the hell out. They need to get away.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's definitely great to see that. Especially as somebody who is part of the LGBTQ community, just seeing people trying to become more inclusive and the sport trying to include more people in the sport, because I haven't really talked much about this, but I wore my pride hat to the Daytona duels, and as I walked out to use the bathroom, I got several nasty looks from some of the people there. Um, because obviously this is Florida, where a lot of this stuff is going on.
Yeah.
And so, seeing this effort being put towards a more inclusive environment, it's always so great to see that.
Hmm. Yes, and it is great to see that. And hopefully, because we're trying to make NASCAR more of a welcoming sport to anyone, because as I brought up before, there's been those stereotypes. We know what they are. Don't need to go through them again. But this is just trying to show, like, hey, we accept anyone. We accept everyone. This should be for everyone. It should be for everybody, no matter what. So come on down, enjoy yourself. We don't want these kind of awful people here. We don't want them here. So, and I think NASCAR is doing a good job in putting their foot down. And thankfully, they're signing that in the law too, the state of Florida, and hopefully that'll help some things out, especially around Daytona. Speaking of plugins, by the way, Michael, didn't you want to plug something in, by the way?
Yeah. So today I updated my Open Fender account, which for people who don't know, and I'll just go ahead and plug them in too here as they're a partner of mine. Open Fender is basically the number one source for crowdfunding in motorsports. It was founded by Mason Filippi, who, if you guys know, races in IMSA and in the NASCAR Xfinity and Truck Series. He's been a great help to me these past couple years. And so what we're doing is now we have a program set up there to where anybody who wants to help fund our race program, which we're going to put towards trying to run ARCA this year, is going to go towards having your name on the car. And depending on the donation amount, we're going to be sending merch out to fans. And if it's high enough, we're even offering passes and hospitality for fans who donate. And so if you want to go over there to my Open Fender account, we'll put a link to that in the YouTube video for this. We're accepting any and all donations to help out with the races and get your name on a car and get some merch and even maybe have the chance to come hang out with us at a race.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like Michael said, we'll leave that in the description down below. If you're watching this on YouTube later, check that link in the description down below. With that being said, what else in particular was there you guys wanted to discuss at all?
Yeah, I think we should ask our guest. Seth, do you have anything?
Well, there are a couple of debuts coming up, not just at Dover, but also at Kansas as well. I know Carson Hocevar was supposed to run the Dover Xfinity race, but Spire withdrew that Xfinity car because of the weather that's supposed to be there and possibly canceling qualifying, which Mother Nature apparently isn't a fan of racing this weekend. It looks like it's going to be a washout at both Dover and for the 4-wide Nationals here in Charlotte.
Oof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're still waiting to see what the weather was going to be like for a kart race I'm supposed to run here on Sunday at Newcastle. So, yeah.
Mother
Nature is not playing nice this week.
No, she's not. She does not like racing.
At least not this weekend, anyway. But I know you have Corey Heim making his Xfinity debut this weekend with Sam Hunt Racing.
Yep.
You have Tony Brininger making her truck debut at Kansas with Victoria's Secret as a sponsor for Tricon.
That's right.
Yeah, and I don't understand that. I just still want to figure this out. What is Victoria's Secret? What is Victoria hiding?
What is she hiding?
What is she hiding?
What is Victoria's Secret? Comment down below. Do you guys have any idea what Victoria's Secret is exactly? Because we have no idea.
Y'all are not the only ones to make that joke. Because Dean Thompson, who's going to be her teammate, pledged on Twitter that he would make it his mission to find out the secret.
Dean Thompson has been awesome on Twitter this past week.
Yes, he has, honestly.
I know somebody posted, like, hey, Lil, what's your rapper name? Lil plus the last thing to put you in the hospital. Lil Matt Mills.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I don't know what it is, but it's almost like he's come to life lately when it comes to social media. That is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely what it's felt like. Um,
And speaking of social media, I should probably mention this, but as the National Motorsports Press Association social media manager, the recipient of the NMPA Pocono Spirit Award was announced this week, and the recipient for Quarter 1 is Ryan Vargas.
Oh, wow.
Right on. Okay, that's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
Definitely want to congratulate Ryan Vargas on that, former guest on our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, yeah, definitely huge congrats to him.
And what that means is he's now eligible for the overall award in January when the NMPA has their convention. But he was nominated because he's been dealing with some racism on social media, and they've even gone to text messages, phone calls, death threats. Meanwhile, he still held his head high with dignity, still serving as a board member for the Faces charity, and still racing, competing, and working as a crew member.
Yeah, Ryan is he's a good dude. He really is. I mean, there's no other way to put it. He's just a great dude. So for him to be awarded that is he deserves it. And I hate to see that, that he's dealt with some of those kind of horrible people. He definitely does not deserve that because, again, Ryan is a fantastic person.
I wish we had more people like Ryan in the garage.
I agree 100%.
Absolutely.
I agree. Bringing up debuts as well, Greg Van Alst is going to get an Xfinity chance with, I believe, Alpha Prime coming up.
At Atlanta, I believe.
Yeah, Atlanta. So.
Yeah. And on top of that, they also just announced, I think it's Crash Collision is going to sponsor Ryan Ellis at Atlanta for Alpha Prime.
Okay, nice. And
I have to mention this joke, even though it comes from a different website. I have to mention this joke. But with the sheer number of sponsors that Ryan Ellis has, it's almost like he's playing Pokemon and has to catch them all.
Right? The man just had Canes, because we talked about that in the last podcast. He had Canes as a sponsor. Now he's got this sponsor. Spin the wheel. Who's sponsoring Ryan Ellis this week? Spin the wheel,
Oh, man, I wish it was that easy.
Da, 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 da. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which, by the way, I guess, I don't know, is it okay if I make another announcement here? Because
yeah, go ahead.
I just realized I have another announcement to make. I'll be making my 360 Sprint Car debut May 13th at Plymouth Dirt Track with the MSA Sprint Car Series running for Randy Sipple. And I just want to thank my sponsors, 502 Hemp, 859 Tap Room, and K1 Race Gear for letting me go out here and try this. And I cannot wait. This has been a dream of mine for so many years, and getting the chance to finally do it feels kind of surreal. So if you're out there near Elkhart Lake on May 13th, definitely come on out and say hi.
Absolutely thrilled for you, man.
Thank you. All right. Any other NASCAR topics to go into here?
Can't think of anything else. Seth?
I'm trying to think of some.
Let's see. Checking my recording. Looks like we've gone just a little over an hour now, actually. So we're doing pretty good.
I can't think of anything else. Well, here, how about this? How about I pose a question?
All right.
There's 11 spots left for the 75 greatest drivers. Assuming that the 9 Cup drivers that haven't been named to that, or 9 Cup champions that haven't been named to that list yet, meaning there's 2 spots left.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think takes those 2 spots?
Okay. Would you be able to name off
champion?
Would you be able to name off the champions by chance? So I can kind of.
Kurt and Kyle Busch.
Okay.
Bobby Labonte. Jimmy Johnson, Harvick, Logano, Truex. Chase Elliott's already on there. Larson's already on there. Kenseth.
Keselowski.
And Keselowski.
Okay.
So assuming that all of them are going to end up being on and leaving 2 spots left, who do you think takes those last 2 spots?
Oh, boy.
Wow,
That's a good question, isn't it?
it is. It is a good question.
Very good question.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, holy cow.
Because I'm trying to think in, like, not just Cup, but obviously the other series too, like Xfinity Truck, even Modifieds.
Well, for me, and this is just me personally, I would want at least one person from any of the international series just to show NASCAR's growth outside of the U.S.
I like that idea.
And based on that, I would put in either Scott Steckley or Andrew Ranger from the Pinty series,
Okay.
where they both have 3 or 4 titles each. And I think they both have around 10 or 15 wins out of 150 starts.
Okay.
So that's not really that bad of a percentage.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
After them, or after one of them, because that'll leave 1 spot left, at least for me, where you have Hornaday already on the list, you kind of have to go either Matt Crafton or Jack Sprague.
Yeah. I would definitely consider one of those 2 for sure. If you want to go down to trucks, I think Sprague's a great choice for sure. What about Todd Bodine?
Again, he's someone. He has multiple truck titles, but it's one of those where if you're going to put him on, who are you going to leave off?
That's true. Very true.
Yeah. Man, this is a great question. I cannot even think. I think Jack Sprague or Matt Crafton would be a good one. I'll probably go with Jack Sprague over Matt, just because I believe Jack's had success in other divisions, and whereas Matt is kind of limited to the truck series. Wow.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I was going to say, then you have, because I was actually talking about this on a different Discord earlier, for the 2 spots left, assuming all the other champions get on, for the 2 spots left, you have somewhere around 8 to 15 drivers that dominated their respective series at one point or another. I've already mentioned Scott Steckley and Andrew Ranger from the Pinty series. You also have LP Dumoulin from the Pinty series. Andy Santerre from what is now ARCA East. Back then it was Busch North. Ed Christopher from Modifieds. You have Justin Bonsignor from Modifieds. Doug Coby from Modifieds. Ruben Garcia Jr. from the Mexico series.
Yeah.
You have Alon Day from the Euro series, along with Anthony Coupin and Anders Villarino.
Yeah.
Yeah. One driver who I just thought of, because I decided to just go through and look at wins from all 3 divisions, and here's just a driver who, I noticed has had success in several divisions of NASCAR. Only has 1 Cup Series win, so, take without will, but I believe he's also had plenty of success in the NASCAR short track divisions. What about Johnny Benson?
He's somebody else I could see.
Yeah.
Again, he has titles in 2 different series.
That's true.
He has a lot of wins in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series.
Yes, he does.
Yeah,
and then
scored 1 win in the Cup Series, and he's got several, I believe, NASCAR Weekly Series wins. I believe.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then you also have the West Series as well, with several drivers out there being pretty dominant too.
Yeah, I mean,
So
one
like I
guy that
said,
comes to mind, immediately is probably Derek Thorne, with just the success he's had out on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
well, you have him, you have Brendan Gaughan, you have Jason Bowles, you have Eric Holmes. So there's a lot. Even Greg Pursley too. Which Pursley,
Yeah,
if I remember correctly, he won 20 races in 100 starts and then called it a day.
yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Now, granted, are all of them worthy? Of course, not all of them are. I'm not trying to say it that way. But just looking at the stats, and again, using different metrics, whether it's domination, whether it is winning key races, whether it's the Daytona 500, the Coke 600, the Brickyard 400, the Southern 500, or just winning titles. To me, if you have two titles, you're a better chance. And if you have multiple titles, regardless of what series, like LP Dumoulin, I think he just won his fourth Pinty's title 2 years ago.
That's
So
true.
if you have that many titles, clearly you're dominating, and you're one of the greatest, at least for that specific division.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And actually, I think I just thought of one. I just thought of one driver who I would definitely put on there now. And now this is going to be a bit controversial, okay? This is kind of going to go along those lines of like, is a hot dog a sandwich or something like that. But Frank Kimmel.
I was thinking about that too.
That's going to be a bit of a stretch because Arco was only recently bought by NASCAR. But
And that's where I struggle with it, because
yeah,
he has the stats, but did he have the stats at the right time?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, if he doesn't make the 75 greatest driver list, and I've been saying this for a while to multiple people, but I could see him someday being in the NASCAR Hall of Fame, especially if they rework the ballots again.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm saying if they do, at some point they're going to run out of pioneers.
They will.
yeah,
So that when that day comes, what to me makes sense to replace that with is the regional series.
Right.
And that would make it a lot easier, to a certain degree, for a Frank Kimmel to make it, for a Scott Steckley, or Andrew Ranger, and LP Dumoulin, Andy Santerre, drivers who transcended their respective division.
Mm-hmm.
right. Yeah, and obviously, if you include Frank Kimmel in this, then you kind of open the door for several other drivers like Iggy Katona or
Right.
Tim Steele.
Yeah. Absolutely. So.
Yes. So, you know what? I'm going to say my next two drivers for that, if you're asking me, I'm going Frank Kimmel and Jack Sprague, I think.
Yeah. I'd probably have to go with that too, honestly. And I know Kimmel's kind of a stretch, but I think, there's always been, even before NASCAR bought ARCA, there's always been kind of that, that relationship there. I think he could be a good pick.
And for me, I'm going to stick with either Scott Steckley or Andrew Ranger for someone from the international representation, and Jack Sprague.
All right.
Yeah, that's a pretty good pick then.
Yeah.
All right, so if Jack Sprague makes it in, then we all have to, yeah.
Yeah. You're like, we caught it. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, we're not the only ones making these predictions either. I know NASCAR had a panel, and from what Dave Moody said on SiriusXM NASCAR, because he was on the panel, NASCAR gave them a list of like 40 or 50 drivers to pick from.
Oh, wow.
If that was the case, I can only imagine the arguments over certain drivers once they got through some of the more obvious ones.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you got to put in pretty much every champion, and then after that, it is a bit of a stretch. Some drivers are more obvious, like Denny Hamlin, I think, was a pretty clear pick, just with his stats alone.
And Newman.
Yeah. Yeah, Newman.
Casey Kane, granted, he didn't have the wins, but he had the poles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dale Jr.
Yeah. And Carl Edwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Jr. had the influence, of course, and everything he's done for the sport.
Yeah, and the stats. I mean,
and the stats.
2 Daytona 500s and 26 wins, you know.
And
I would say those are...
Yeah, and a successful scout, developing drivers, and a successful team owner in the Xfinity Series.
Although the 75 greatest driver list is limited to just what you did on track.
That's true.
Yep. All right, so through that, so would you say that this is probably a good point here? I think we've kind of gone through everything we need to, unless anyone has anything else they want to add.
Yeah, I think that'll do it. We're about an hour and 13 minutes in, so I think we've covered about everything we want to talk about.
Yeah, all right. So, Seth, thank you so much for coming on. It was great talking to you. Definitely look forward to seeing you again at the racetrack and also on iRacing.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me, and hopefully the next time we're all in the same iRacing event, we all make the event.
Yes, and that I don't do something really dumb on the apron.
Yeah,
Which may or may not have been what took me out of the duel.
Right.
Yeah, don't do what I did on iRacing last night. Don't do what I did in the Elite Cup last night. I don't know if I told you about that, Alex, but actually I think I did.
Yeah, I think you did, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I made another stupid mistake right after that. I was letting the one car go, and then I decided to get back on the line. I didn't see right behind them was the leader. So
yeah,
he just about plowed right into the back of me.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
But with that being said, again, Seth, thank you so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun things to talk about. And yeah, that'll do it from us here at the Dropping the Hammer Racing Hour. From Seth Eggert and Michael Klein and myself, Alex Gray, reminding you, take care of yourself and each other. And have a good one. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.